find it so I can mute it.
Yeah.
It's muted.
All right, let's see. This is the thing. It always takes like a couple minutes to get loaded up, but I think we're live. Yay.
Oh, there it goes.
You got two of us.
There's my face.
Oh, let's see. I see Apocalyptic Potato. Hi. Move my monitor over here.
Oh. Ah. There it is. All right.
Yay.
Now we're cooking with gasoline.
Getting all situated.
Apocalyptic Potato and Savannah.
Oh, hi, Savannah. Hi, T-Buggy.
And hi,
awesome. We're not alone. Oh, good. So
we're not alone.
This one to be like super chatty. Like we're kind of just hanging out talking about stuff because Jessica and I were saying how like as we're going through querying hopefully this year for both of us and like kind of just looking at our stories, we're like, we just have so much to talk about. So if y'all
with everyone else.
Yeah. So if y'all just want to chat or tell us like if y'all are going to query this year or if that's something you're even interested in, because I know a lot of AuthorTube is like indie self-publishing, which I'm also on board that train. So let us know. Hey.
I might be dancing in my seat a little bit. It's fine.
I was too. Well, that's what, you have any hot chocolate left? Because I have this much of my tea left.
I absolutely do. I don't, it's like right here. I have a soda. I have water. There's candy around here somewhere.
All the drinks. That's what we need as we kind of tuck into this.
I'm prepared.
Baby's here. Hey.
Oh, hi, Vanessa. Vanessa's here.
All right. Well, I already kind of told you because my first question is that, so I guess I should say I haven't queried yet. I'm hoping to query in like a couple weeks time. And so this is a very new experience for me, but I have had a book before where I was like to the point where I was ready. And then I realized the market was not, because it was like a college age new adult superhero book. And that's like, it was never going to sell kind of thing. So pivoted and like wrote another story. And now I feel like I have two almost this year that I might be able to query, depending on the feedback I get from the first one. But Jessica, you have queried before.
I have. I queried in 2014, 2015. My first story, which had like a way different name and the whole difference. And it's been a long time. It's had a lot of some zhuzhing since then.
Yeah.
But I did query quite a lot for about a full calendar year.
Yeah.
Obviously it didn't go well, but you know, but yeah, so I know some things. I'm not the expert, but I definitely know a little bit about what people are looking for and what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, buddy. That was just what works and what doesn't. I was like repeating that in my mind because I have links down below if y'all want to check them out in the comment section. I think they should show up at least for like Query Shark. That's one where it's like what works and what doesn't. You can see clearly. But the thing that always confuses me is that some work and don't work for like different reasons. And I feel like I kind of get a hang for what's not going to work, but some of the things that do work, I'm always surprised by. And then trying to make that true of your own story that you know so much about is a challenge.
Well, and the thing with Query Shark is something that she tells you a lot is that, like, she's giving you the basic guidelines of what most agents are looking for. But if something, like if you're looking at that agent and they have requirements for what they want in a query and it goes against what she has told you, always do what the agent prefers.
Yeah.
Go specific for that agent, because if you're not, then you're basically ignoring what they told you to do, and they don't want to work with people who don't care about what they tell them to do.
Right. That's like baseline rule. Give them what they ask for and don't give them what they definitely don't want. So like if they're, you know, a fantasy, you know, agent, like that's really what they like. Don't try and pitch them like a children's, you know, picture book.
And it's like, you know, make sure that while you're writing a really witty and funny query and, you know, some talk points in there, that you don't then forget to attach the material
Oh
that
my
they ask for. Like some people I know in this
God,
room.
Jessica, no.
Oh, don't be traumatized by querying Vanessa. It's really, I mean, most of your responses will be automated responses. I would say 75% of what I got back was automated. And they usually, if it is automated, they either tell you that it's an automated response. Typically, they apologize for sending an automated response and say that, you know, they get so many people replying to them that they don't have time to address you specifically. But then times there will be ones that are specific for you. Like they'll say, you know, like I liked this about it, but it's just still not really what I'm looking for. More often than not, it's I'm so and so's. Uh, oh my gosh, the word just left. I
So
yep. The why is the word left me?
agent?
Like
Favorite?
the agent's assistant.
Oh, okay.
It's a really easy word. It just like ran away. Anyway, a lot of times your responses will be, I'm so and so's assistant, and they liked this about it, but it's just not right for them right now, or it's not something that the market is looking for right now.
Yeah. Well, and there's
So,
so many reasons that could be true and it not have anything to do with your story. So that's also the hard part, is distinguishing between taking the feedback you get from your querying experience and then deciding what's true and if it's worth continuing to query and all that stuff.
well, and there's also like, I did get one that was like the world's most interesting response that I think I've ever gotten from a query. And it was
Oh my God.
that they didn't like, they liked it, but it was too similar to one that they were already sending to publishers. And so they, and
Oh,
like, while they liked the idea of it, they didn't think that like they could fight for two of the same story at
two
the
the
same
same.
time. Yeah.
See, that's what
So,
everyone always says. There's like a healthy dose of luck that you
yeah,
have to have, and that's that part of it.
yeah, you have to, I mean, you have to hit the right person on the right day at the right time. And that's why you just should just, I mean, I say query broadly, but also only query to people that are looking for your type of story.
Yes.
Broadly does
Oh,
not mean every person on the planet. It means people that are looking specifically for your type of story.
right.
Oh, I meant to write it down and I didn't earlier. I don't know if you know it, but there is like a Twitter hashtag. I look and see if I've got it in here of like what.
I've seen like manuscript wish list.
Yeah, MSWL.
And they actually
Um,
have a website, which I linked in one of the comments, and that's super helpful because that's been my big problem, is because I wrote a YA fantasy that's a pirate novel, and it's much more like adventure-y, heisty, and also less so description. So it's like trying to narrow down what someone wants when they say YA fantasy, and I can look at the manuscript wish list, and if they're like, I want lush world, creation and all sorts of other stuff, I'm like, well, I have some cool stuff, but I would definitely not describe my writing style as lush. So you may not be the one for me.
Unfortunately.
I know.
I mean, it is a lot of luck and it's a lot of preparation, because I think it's important to have people read your query just as much as it's important to have people read your story.
Yeah.
So if you've had friends that have read it, or even your beta readers, you can always go back to your beta readers and be like, hey, you beta read this for me. I'm querying now. Do you think this query is a good representation of my story, or no?
Yeah. Well, I've seen the advice that I think is really cool, to have people who haven't read your story read your query, because the agent hasn't read your story either. So if what prompts the person who hasn't read your story to be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, or what confuses them will probably also confuse the agent. So get a mixture of people to read your stuff.
It's always good to have people look over it. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it can't hurt to have someone look at it.
Yes.
I mean, Vanessa says, it doesn't seem fair. What if mine was better? I assure you mine was not better. It had a really great query letter and a really shitty story. My apologies. I just cursed on the internet live. Sorry, internet. It's a really crappy story, but it had a really good query.
Oh, thank you for wanting to read a YA pirate fantasy novel. Hopefully that'll happen.
I want to read your YA pirate fantasy
novel. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, hi, Becca.
Oh, Becca's here too. Hi, Becca.
Oh, I see. She says, I think my book is too confusing. Not Becca. World of Words. It crosses a couple genres. That's a fascinating problem, which I feel like I've definitely had in a story before. And I think that can be helpful, though, sometimes, depending on how the market is at the time.
And I think the market is, unfortunately, the market is heading back into vampires. I don't say unfortunately because like vampires are horrible, but just like that's where it's headed.
It's going to be a thing. Yeah.
So maybe the answer, because a lot of it is what the market is at the time. So the answer may be to look at what came in after vampires before.
Oh, and see if it falls
coming back around. It's like low-rise jeans are coming back. We've had like the high-waisted, now the low-rise are coming back. So like we went from vampires. What was after vampires? Because the vampires have come back around. So what should come next?
Yeah, I mean dystopian.
Yeah. Well, and not everyone's like you and I, where we have like 20 stories that we can pull from and like polish and send off.
Yeah.
But, and there may be something that works better for what's coming in, because it is. Vanessa, I totally get it's a high fantasy contemporary mystery, because I have a story that is contemporary as far as like it's set in modern day, but they cross over into like an alternate high fantasy reality. So I get that.
Oh.
I get that. That one is like very low on the totem pole, but like that's the one that has like an ending and a middle but has no beginning. Like I'd figure out how to begin it.
Yes.
And then we can go from there.
But. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's what I think all the time when I'm not trying to predict trends, but because you and I both do have so many different story ideas in various stages of like doneness, I'm like, man, if I knew what was going to happen, I could be like, okay, just backtrack and query, 2 years before that's going to be the big thing, and then it would be great. But
only we had a time machine.
I know. Also, I agree, Shelley. No low res. No.
It's not good. It's not pretty for girls my size anyway, but it's not fun for anybody. I just remember like I'm older too. Like I'm 31, so I remember being in high school and like in middle school, and the girls like leaning over and like you can see their whale tail up over the back of their head.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's coming back.
Why? Becca says it's always so hard to predict what's trending. Yes, it's like impossible. I would be really curious, Becca, your perspective too, from someone who does indie publishing, how that affects kind of sales and how you market things. Shelby, how long does it usually take or should take to get an offer from an agent before you should move on from them if their response time is not posted on their website? Okay, so on, what is it? It is querytracker.net. You can actually see how long it usually takes someone to respond. Like there's tons of data they have if you're willing to. I think it's like, it was $25 a year. The novelty live show, they talked about it a lot, and I know Lexus mentioned it. I have paid for it at this point, and I can say it's definitely worth it. And you can kind of peg where you are in the system and see if they've like passed over you or something. But in terms of if you don't want to do that, and if it's not on their website, I've seen most of the websites that I've looked at, they said we should get back to you in a month, in 4 weeks. So if it's not that time, and you haven't heard anything, that's kind of like, I would just take that as a rejection. The other thing to consider though is that like December is a really bad time to query because people are just like out of the office. And I'm actually waiting a little bit longer to query mine because I've seen some agents that I really like say that they're not accepting any queries until like 2 more weeks from now, kind of thing. And I was like, ooh, I should probably just hold off then, or query some other people first and then them. But
well,
yeah.
and the way that Shelby's question is formed, it says how long does it take to get an offer from an agent? You're not going to get an offer like from your original query letter. They're always going to ask for more material. So the 4-week response time is good for someone that is asking for more materials. It is very unlikely that if they ask for more materials that they don't reply to you.
Yeah.
They're going to reply. If they ask to take the time to read more from you, they are going to respond to you. And typically they will give you, like, let you know what their response time will be. Because once you can query more than one person at a time. You can query 100 people at one time if you want. I don't recommend you go quite that far.
Right.
Like, 5 or 10 when you're starting out, but you can query more than one person at a time. So it's when you start getting into the more serious things, like when they've asked to see larger parts of your work, or you've had the phone call. A lot of times they'll ask to see more of your work, and then the next step is they'll want to have a phone conversation with you to see how your personalities meld, because we're not the same in text as we are in our actual vocal voices, because they want to me, it's like I hate talking on the phone, and in some senses I hate being on here because it's like I don't have time to think about my response. It's just whatever comes out.
Go.
And hence it took me 10 minutes to think of the word assistant 20 minutes ago. So it's just, you can query widely. You can query more than one person at a time. So you don't really in the beginning have to really worry about people not getting back to you. But a month is like a good cutoff. Like if you don't hear from them after a month, like it's over.
Yeah, you can assume it's a no.
Yeah, don't respond to them. Don't be like, hey, did you get this?
Right,
Just
yeah, no follow-up.
walk away, move on with life.
Right, unless, of course, the caveat is they did ask for more stuff. And then if you don't hear with them within another month or something, be like, hey, just wanted to double check. Like,
right. Like if they ask for something specifically, because at that point you're not, it's kind of like solicitation. Like when you're out and you're querying, you're basically soliciting people, like you're asking them to take something from you, and a lot of people don't like that. And so like if they don't respond, then it's just they're busy. They have a lot of workload. But once they've like actually connected to you, they will be very open about how they reply to you. Vanessa says she just got a rejection 11 months after her query. That's insane.
How does that happen? Was it over email, or was it like snail mail? Or
yeah, I've never heard of that. That is horrifying. I wouldn't want to work with that person.
Well, no, yeah, that would just be like if it took that long.
Even if they sent like a request for more paperwork and it had been 11 months, I would be like, no, I'm good. Like either your workload is too big or you're a slacker, so I'm out. Like
yeah, whichever one. Email, I forgot I even queried. Yeah, no kidding. 11 months later. Oh my god.
It takes less time than that to have a baby.
That should be the measure of a lot of things. Could I have had a baby in this time? You can finish. Like,
come on, you can answer an email. People grew a child and gave birth to it and are feeding it already. That is a long time. That is crazy long time. There were some other questions up here, but I was talking.
Well, I see Margot said that she's nowhere near querying, but she just finished her first draft in 2018, or the first draft she finished. Congratulations.
Yes, that's awesome.
That's like the first step.
I think most writers, like their first finished draft is a nano project. A lot. I love that, like on the Nano website, I don't know the exact link. I can't get you there from here, but I know that they have like where they list like really big books that started out as
Yeah.
a nano project.
I'm like 99% certain the Lunar Chronicles is one of those,
Yes.
which is so cool.
Which is awesome. And I love that series. So it's like,
Well, that's one of my favorite YA series.
why am I not this good?
I know. Oh. See, but okay, I try not to remind myself of that because I forget that, of course, she had so many editors looking over that. And like, I'm sure she's mega talented before that, but like, she's had help at that point. I always have to remind myself, don't compare your work that you've done all alone to
someone else's completed work.
Yes, exactly.
Dun, dun, dun. If you had one piece of advice for people looking to query for the first time, what would it be? Make sure that you read what the agent wants. Make sure that you're making sure that what they're looking for is the kind of story that you are sending them. If they ask for a specific number of pages or chapters, that's what you send them. Don't send more, don't send less. If they ask that you put comp titles in your query, make sure you're putting your comp titles in your query.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they ask you for, make sure you put it in there.
Well, and it's going to be so different agent to agent. So like, obviously you have to have a baseline, have a query letter, but like they'll vary vastly between like 5 pages or 10 pages or just the query letter that they want you to send. So do your research.
When I was querying, I had like a folder saved on my computer because typically they ask for it in PDF files because it's something that can be opened pretty much anywhere, or at least they did when I was querying 5 years ago. But I don't know really what they asked for now, but I'm sure they'll tell you. But I saved everything in a specific file on the computer, and I had like the basic query letter, and then I had like the first 3 chapters in one, and the first 50 pages, and the first 10 pages. And anytime someone asked for something different, I would save it. And that way, the next time someone asked for the same size, because a lot of them are very similar, they'll ask for like a specific amount of pages or lines or what have you. And it was already there and it was already saved. So like I would keep everything together so that I could just attach things, because they do typically ask for you to attach pages separately. Like your query is in the email, but they want the pages attached separately.
That's been the biggest surprise to me because I think it might still be true for some of them. It was definitely true a few years ago, but what I've seen now is that some of them have special forms like they'll have on their website that they want you to fill out, which I'm sure you put your email address in, but it's less emailing a certain thing and just a form you fill. And then other ones I've seen them, they're like just copy and paste all of it and put it into the body of the email. So it's like no more attachments, which I guess maybe a couple people got burned and like downloaded a virus or something. So I haven't seen that one as often as I thought I would, since that was kind of the common thing for a while there.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know for sure what they ask for now because it's been a while since I've queried, and so I will know more. But just, I mean, the basis is whatever they ask for, that's what you send them.
Yes.
Because if you're not, then as I said before, if you're not doing what they ask you to do, it's just going to be, they're going to look like they can't even follow simple directions. So I don't want to work with them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing for you, the writer, that you want to check out is like not just, woohoo, I got, an agent, but you need to like do your research on them and make sure that's someone that you want to be working with over the entire time. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in feeling like getting an agent's the next step and we don't really care how we got to that step, instead of being like, this is, someone I'm going to be working with for like however many years potentially. So you have to make sure you like them too.
Yeah, you should always do research on the person who's sending you offers, anybody that's sending you anything. I mean, even if you've heard of them before, it's still good to do your research. Ideally, you would do your research before you send it to them.
Yeah.
But yes, you should always be doing research. And sometimes a good place to start is just, as we were talking about yesterday, authors that you enjoy their book and you think maybe your book is comparable to theirs, then you should maybe look and see who their agent is and see if you think that agent would be a good fit for you and if they're accepting queries. Because sometimes agents are not accepting queries, and if they're not accepting queries, don't send them one.
Yeah. Again, well, because it might not even get through to them like that. Don't do
again, follow their rules.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So Jessica was telling me that. And then so I've since made a spreadsheet of like potential agents that I'd like to query. I think I have like 25 now, but I think 15 of those that I've come up with are just because I liked another author that they were already representing. And I think that's such a great way to do it. And actually on that querytracker.net, you can look up by author who their agent is, which is really cool. And it's fascinating to see how many of these big authors are represented by the same person sometimes.
Well, and if you think about it, realistically, you can look at different authors and like they have their own cliques. It's kind of like some other things we've been discussing, like groups of people get together. And I don't know if they all are like the same publishing house or the same agents, but there's a lot of like popular YA authors that are friends and they do like writing retreats together. And it's like these 5 or 6 women that are just like always together. And so try to get into that clique. That's fun time.
Make writer friends. But I feel like everyone else is doing that by, I mean, AuthorTube's how I made a lot of writer friends. So
Becca's talking about her experience with her first manager, which sounds horrifying.
Yeah.
I always love having Becca around because she's seen so much.
She knows so much. She has so much experience with all sides of it. Also, Shelly, of course I made a spreadsheet. Thank you for knowing me so well.
Absolutely. Shelby says, do you query a different agent for a different book after you get signed with one, or is your agent for all of your books?
Ooh, good question.
It depends on the agent. If you are writing a different book and it is something that is within their wheelhouse, you can always say, hey, you and I work great together. I'm working on this story. Like, is it something interesting to you? And if it is, they'll let you know. And if it's not, they'll let you know that as well. And you can work with more than one agent at a time. Because like if you're writing like a sci-fi and you're writing a contemporary and the agent that you're working with on your contemporary knows nothing about sci-fi, they're going to recommend that you go to someone who knows sci-fi, and they may send you to someone else in their company. But they're your agent. They're there to work for you. So they'll let you know what would be best for you, whether it's something that they think they can handle or if it's something that you should go to someone else with.
Yeah. And if you know that going in that you like to write in multiple genres, like I know that I like to write in multiple genres, that's a question I would ask the agent before I agreed to like partner with them. Be like, hey, what do you think of this? And kind of like career plan, if that makes sense. And they can tell me, because they can still be my agent and I could still get another agent for like, let's say my adult horror book that I want to publish kind of thing. So just have a conversation.
Yes. And I mean, it could even be 2 contemporary books and like your other book could not be interesting to them. Like and again, they may have something else very similar to it that they, don't want to try to rep 2 of the similar book at the same time. And they may tell you to, it's not interesting to them. You may want to go in a different direction. And sometimes, the story isn't good for anybody. And just because you're a good writer doesn't mean that that anyone's going to want to publish the story.
Right.
And sometimes just to like appease your fans, like Wattpad is always an option. I know that sounds crazy, but like Susan Dennard, who is like the queen of all things publishing, I mean, her book sales are not in line with anybody that you would consider like a huge YA author right now. But she does sell enough that most of us know who she is. But she has been releasing a story on Wattpad because she said it's like the first thing she ever wrote. And it's very different now than what it was before. But that she just never really found the person that was the right fit for it. But she loves the story and she believes in it. So she started posting it for her fans to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great thing. I mean, that's my personal opinion, since y'all probably know I'm a little bit not biased, but like that's why I think being a hybrid author, either doing the traditional publishing for the things that you think are better to be traditionally published or maybe more marketable or more consumer friendly or whatever, and then you can have your indie publishing side or the Wattpad side or whatever you want to share your writing that you think an agent or a publishing house wouldn't pick up just because that's not how, you know, the market works. So,
or you can shelve it and wait 4 years for vampires to go back out and try again.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Whatever works. Well, and I mean, just because a story was on Wattpad doesn't mean it'll never be published, because we've seen it happen a million times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
if you have enough readers.
They get polished and edited again, and sometimes things taken out or added in, but I mean, it happens a lot more than you would think it does. I mean, it's not the end all be all. There's not agents on there like surfing looking for Wattpad stories, but
yeah, but you also shouldn't like go into publishing something on Wattpad and thinking that this is going to happen. Like,
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Becca says, not sure if this is different in the book world, but in the TV movie industry, managers help shape your career and agents are just about the sales and deals. Do you guys know if that's the same for books? I think it's become more to the point where your agent is like your business partner for the long haul of your career. Ideally, again, if you don't have, you know, the same interests, or like you have such diverse interests and genres, that may not be true. But I think more and more people are partnering up for the long extent of their career.
Yes. And also agents are also, and it depends on the agent, and it's always something that you can ask. Some agents want to get your books like completely fully polished, and others want to work with you on the editing and the polishing and things like that. So that's always something to think about too, is if it's someone that is like an editing agent or if they're like a fully polished agent, because that can affect as well. So I don't know that many authors have like a manager per se. I think as an author, you manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You are your own business. You have to manage yourself. And then your agent kind of is your business partner and helps you figure things out of what you're going to do. I don't know why there is that difference, but it just seems to exist.
Yeah, that is really interesting, especially since we're both in like an entertainment and creation kind of standpoint, that industries are different.
Which is what makes it fun for everyone and confusing.
Well, and I was kind of thinking about this as you were saying the polished versus like they want to help you make changes to your story before they pitch it to editors at publishing houses. But that's my thing with like the fear of failure is that it's always better to let the agent say no. Like as long as you're following directions and following instructions, let the agent be the one to say that they don't want your story or that they can't help your story or whatever, because some are happy to work on something to make it better.
Yes. And I mean, there are very few publishing houses that will like accept work without an agent. It happens.
Yeah.
But it's not likely to happen. So an agent is just really a good step. Now, obviously, if you're self-publishing, you don't need an agent, but hey, you're probably not here watching this video about querying if you're planning on self-publishing exclusively.
Well, or I don't know how it works if you've indie published or self-published your novels and then they get to be so popular. I don't know if an agent ever steps in there.
I don't know that I'm sure there's one out there that I'm not thinking of that is super popular that would have breached over, but my brain I didn't come prepared for that question.
Sorry, throwing it
out. But also I would say that if you have a self-published book and it becomes like that popular and you are interested in maybe going to a publishing house, they would probably not do anything with your previous work. They would probably just be like, not a publishing house, but an agent.
Mm.
They would want something new, probably, would be my guess.
Yeah, well, I don't know how that works because I know agents take like industry standard is 15% for each of the deals they sell. So I don't know if you already had that and were already making money from that, how they'd be able to.
Right.
There's a whole lot of questions there.
I think they would want something where they were going to make their money from, and
Yeah.
And I think that, again, If you're looking for more transparency in like how much you'll make from a book and what the possibility of how much you'll make in a book is, definitely check out Susan Dennard's website about in her newsletters. That's the word I was looking for. She has a section where she has like all of her past newsletters, and probably 4 months ago, she actually went through and talked about like exactly how much she made on her Something Strange and Deadly series, how much she made, how much her advances were, and on the Witchland series as well. So, and she's one of the few people who is transparent about that. Most authors are not.
That's what I just signed up for her newsletter. I'll have to go back and look at that because it blew my mind. I was listening to the Publishing Crawl podcast. They did an episode like a couple years ago saying how Publishers Marketplace or whatever announces the deals have certain terminology for basically how many zeros are tacked on to the end of the deal. So if it's like an $1,000 deal, you know, it'll be like, it's a good deal. Or if it's like a great deal, if it's 5 figures, or like if it's a 6-figure deal, it's like a fantastic deal was signed kind of thing. And so I feel like publishing in general has a lot of like gray area and ambiguity. And I think they do it purposely. So I think it's awesome that Susan Dennard is, you know, really putting it out there.
Well, and she said that like, she doesn't feel like it's very personal, and she doesn't know why more people don't talk about it, but like it's really helpful for us because we don't know what to expect. We don't know when we're getting shammed, or you know, like I think it's good information to have so that you know what to base your expectations off of.
Yeah. And also, especially because I know things can differ so much if you're with like a big 5 publishing house versus, you know, a maybe smaller boutique, or like, that's not a word, but like a small boutique publishing house or something like that, that sales and deals can differ. And also just because like what you get in your bonus doesn't mean like it's necessarily going to sell well and all sorts of other stuff. So,
well, and that's one thing she talked about was like, she didn't feel like she would ever meet her advance that she got on the Something Strange and Deadly series.
mm-hmm.
Like, it just hasn't sold as well as they had expected it to. And she said she'll probably never advance out on it.
Wow.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I looked up. Steven said that he thinks that The Martian was originally self-published.
Yes. Okay.
I'm so lost right now, guys. I have like 87 tabs open, but it does say that it was published in 2011, but it was originally self-published in 2011, and then Crown Publishing purchased the rights and re-released it in 2014. So it is possible to self-publish and then have someone pick it up and then turn it into a movie.
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened.
I like Apocalyptic Potato asks, what counts as a YA book? Is there specific requirements? Which is an awesome question, since your guess might be as good as ours or the industry's. I mean, they have general ages for the main character is like 14 to like 19 maybe. But there's a whole lot of wiggle room in there.
Yeah, and it's like your subject matter typically has to do with that character finding themselves in the world, regardless of whether it's contemporary or fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. Typically, YA deals with the main character. Yeah, it's a coming of age tale. The main character is, you know, figuring their way through life, trying to figure out what kind of person they're going to be, and that's why it's a younger person typically. Not always, but typically.
Yeah, because what's the Sarah J. Maas's I don't know, her book series, I know people have questioned if that technically counts as young adult, because I think the main character starts out at 19 and there's more like sex involved than there usually is in YA, and like, so
I think the anger is typically that they, especially it's the chord of I don't even know what the court series is called. I'm a terrible person. But they like that one is more adult than the other, but they both have like sex and violence and things like that in it. It would be nice if they were rated more like movies. Like a movie is rated based off of like how much sex and violence and language is in it. Like, can't we just rate it based off of that?
Yeah. But I
Like,
mean, there's YA content that covers some heavy stuff all the time. So I think it really comes down to the character's age usually. Let's see. How much money will you get in advance if you publish a YA mystery novel? Who knows? It depends on the market. It depends on what the publishers think they can sell it for.
Depends on how good of a deal your agent makes.
Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of questions. So,
I mean, it's typically, if you're in the writing business to make money, you are in the wrong business. If you're here to be the next J.K. Rowling, rolling in money, hiding behind a gated fence in Yorkshire somewhere, I don't know where she lives, but it sounded good. You're probably in the wrong business. It's probably not going to happen for you. It might, but I think the most important thing is just to really love your story and to feel confident in your work and have a want to share it with other people. And even if you never make $1, at least you're doing what makes you happy.
Yep. And that's Becca's comment saying that she has 2 friends who were traditionally published, one with Penguin, one with Blue Moon, and both of their advances were $5,000 and they haven't seen a dime past that. So it's what happens. And
it may happen like that, or you may be like some of the more YA popular authors and end up with 20 grand a year.
Well, that's what, so many authors have day jobs that you keep your day job until you're able to quit it. And a lot of people don't ever reach the able to. And what blew my mind was I was watching one of Alexa Dunn's videos, and industry wise, she said that like after 5 years, 90% of the people that started out here will have phased out and be no longer like trying to publish stories. And I think depending on how focused you are on that money amount, that could add into it. So
I like numbers. I think you and I have talked about this before. Like when I originally started querying and I originally started writing, I was so surprised by how much information there was out there because I just didn't think that many people like to write. I thought I was just like some weird unicorn that wanted to write, and like surely it wasn't that hard to like get into the business because like what were there 5 people? I mean, yeah, a quarter of the population. 5 people, it's fine.
But that's what agents can do for you so much too, is just getting your story out there to be read, if that is your most important or the thing you want most, I think, in comparison with, indie publishing or something.
Well, and I think a lot of people feel like their work is worth more. And so they give up because they're like, well, if I'm not going to make more money than this, then I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's the right attitude to have. Because if you stop doing it, there's never a chance of you. Like, think about Victoria Schwab. She is like the patron saint of failing miserably for the first couple of books and then exploding. I mean, her first, I know for sure her first book went out of print. I think the second one might have went out of print as well. Because they printed so many and they didn't sell and they moved on with life. But she continued writing, she continued getting better at her craft, and she continued publishing. And now they are republishing her original debut novel because she is so popular. They have edited it and changed a few things, and they are republishing it because she's become like this much better author and this more famous author. So it's like don't give up just because you're not making as much money as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Because it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about.
Or if you're not a success in the first book or the second book or whatever, you know.
Huh. There are people that, you know, their first 4 or 5 books are not great, and then they get like one really popular one, and then people start going and buying the backlist, and then, I mean, things happen.
Yeah. Well, and I know Nora Roberts, another really popular author, who had stories that, like, before she really caught on and became this huge thing that she is now, she's gone back and republished books since then because they weren't popular then, they didn't sell well, but now she has a name and she can, you know, fix the little things that might not have made it as great and sell it again, and now, you know, make even more money.
Well, because she's like one of the top 3, they call them like airport authors.
Right, yeah.
Like
Nora Roberts, James Patterson, like Stephen King thing.
Right. Nicholas Sparks.
Yes.
Put their book in an airport. It'll sell while somebody's sitting there bored out of their mind.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's what I think a lot of people also tend to hear success stories and they're like, that's what it is for everyone. So then when they don't sell like that, they're like, oh, I'm a failure. But no.
Don't measure your success off of someone else's, because no one else has the same amount of work and the same amount of, like, the story's not the same, like, not your actual narrative, but like your story is not the same as theirs. So you're not going to have the same outcome. You're not putting in the same thing, so you're not going to get the same thing out of it.
Yeah. And on that same token, like, someone else's success also doesn't mean your failure. So just because like one person's book is doing really well, that doesn't mean, like, because there's so many readers out there, and I have so many more books that I have bought that I will probably ever get around to, and certainly more than I'll ever write. So, like, never ending books.
Yes. Absolutely true. I'm looking to see if anybody else has any other questions about querying.
Or if you want to tell us your stories about querying, or like the fear of failure, anything like that, or where you're at the writing process, we're really just chatting.
We're just here to chat with you guys and help everybody out the best we can with our horror stories.
Yeah. I'm trying to see, when I'm looking at my query letter, because I'm rewriting it, I have like 2 things left. I need to figure out my comp titles is something, and then I have to put in a section about me. I didn't realize that was still something we had to do.
Oh, yeah.
Like 1 little or 2 little sentences at the end of your query letter that's supposed to be about you. And
well, you have a degree though, don't you? In
no, finance degree.
Oh, that's not helping.
I did not do writing.
Oh, well,
I'm a business person.
Smart, at least. I mean, at least you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't have any degree, so that's a lie. I have a degree in audio engineering and recording. That's also not helping me in this instance. So,
but that's also awesome. Yeah.
Apocalyptic Potato. A synopsis is the actual short form version of your story. So in the synopsis, you will write out basically everything that happens in the book, including the ending. Those are not typically asked for in the beginning, but some will ask for those in the beginning.
It's more common too for nonfiction for that to be part of the query, or like the query stage. But usually the synopsis is after they've asked to see more pages or something.
Yes, and a comp title is something that is, you don't want to go too popular, but something that it has a recognizable name that that you could compare your book to, so that the agent will get a feel for what your story is kind of about. Or
like the voice even that you're using, if it's a similar kind of thing.
And you
just giving them an immediate peg.
Yeah, and you can even use like movies and TV shows. I mean, the majority of them should be books, but you can also use movies and TV shows as a comp title. But like I said, you know, you don't want to go in and just be like, my book is the next Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Don't go that far.
Well, and what I learned from the novelty show, which I think I have in the comments, is that they even want you to have it be within the last 3 years.
Yes.
it can't be something that, and also you have to know like if this book sold well, because you don't want to compare something to something that didn't sell well. That kind of blew my mind. So
Yes. Vanessa, agents don't care if you have an English degree. A lot of writers do have an English degree, but you're writing a couple of sentences about yourself. And I feel like if you have a degree or a job that relates to writing in any way, that you should mention that. You should also mention if you are an author tuber or even a booktuber, really, and you have any kind of a following at all, like even if you just have like 100 subscribers, that to me is worth mentioning because it is related to the reading, writing, publishing world. If you have a blog, if you have a Bookstagram account, if you're like the number 2 reviewer on Goodreads, which you're probably not, but if you are, because it's really hard to be that high up on the list, anything that you do that is related to writing. And if you have absolutely nothing that is related to writing, if you don't have like a degree or a YouTube channel or whatever, you can still write something about yourself that's going to tell them something about you. And it's kind of a way for them to gauge your personality and if they think they'll mesh with you. Whether you like live in a small town or you live in a big city or you live like on a ranch with your 17 dogs and 4 cats, or if you live in a high rise with your 13 children, or
yeah. Or even depending on the novel you're writing, and this isn't true for all of us, but if you don't have any of those writing related things or book related things, if you have some tie to what you're writing about, that could be helpful to mention real quick. Not a lot, but like if the main character lives on a farm and you also live on a farm, that could be something to put in there.
If I was writing a story about audio engineering and recording, I could write in there that I have a degree in audio engineering and recording.
Right.
But I'm not doing that. So
I don't think my 300 something subscribers would impress them.
I don't think my 300 and something subscribers would impress them either, but I think it gives them, to me, it shows them that you are trying, that
and that you're part of the community. Yeah.
You're part of the community. You have some sense of idea of how to market yourself already, because whether you go traditional or self-publishing, you are going to be marketing yourself. It is going to be your job to market yourself. So they know that you know how to market yourself, you know how to do things. And they may, if you say, Vanessa, if you were to say, like, I have a YouTube channel, A World of Words, with X amount of subscribers, or maybe don't even put the amount of subscribers on there, just say that, like you have an AuthorTube channel and your AuthorTube name. If they're that interested in you and in your story, they can look you up. And see like what your personality is like, and if it's something that meshes with them. It's just a way to give them more information. The About You section is for them to figure out if you will mesh with their personality. So anything that you think is a good representation of your personality, or something that attaches you to your book, is good to put in there. Nobody wants to talk about themselves. Nobody.
No.
Narcissist.
And if you are someone who does like to talk about yourself, you got to keep it short.
If you like to spend 3 hours talking about yourself, your About Me paragraph should not be longer than your query.
Yeah.
Definitely. Don't do it.
Well, and also the query should only be like 250 words or something total, I think is the number I've seen tossed around. So it's quite short by itself. And that is supposed to include your About Me section. So you don't want to use up that 250 words talking about you and not your book that you are pitching. Oh, Shelby, okay, this is my question too. I'm going to have to do some more research on. With query letters, should you put your pen name or your real name in the letter? Does it matter, or both? Way back when I was researching this for that college superhero story, I thought you could put in your pen name, and it's something you talk about when they called you and you have the call. I'm going to double check that's still true, because I need to do it too, since Kate Cavanaugh is the name I've created for my writer name. So
I remember originally, and again, it's been a few years for me as well. We should have another one of these at the end of the year after we both queried and like things we learned
Yes, we
from,
should.
from 5 years ago to now. Yes, Shelley is right. Real name, writing as, you should always put your name in there. They're also, if you're sending like an entire manuscript, which do not send someone your entire manuscript unless they ask for it. But if you're sending your entire manuscript, at the top, you put like your personal information, your like phone number, address, ways to contact you. And in that section, you would put your actual legal name. And then where you put the title and the byline, you would put your pen name. So you would like have essentially both names on your cover page of your manuscript. But again, don't send them your manuscript unless they ask for it. Please.
Yes. I'm trying to think of, I took notes. I'm trying to see what other things I had. Oh, that's what I think the advice to go in with the fear of failure kind of thing is that I decided that I was ready to query this novel. One, because I think it's more marketable than the other one, but two, because I think it really is at the point where it's as good as I possibly could have made it by myself, pre an agent who's more interested in kind of helping me make it better kind of thing. So, and I've had beta readers, that should be the other asterisk, beta readers and like critique partners. And like, I really think this is all I can do. So.
Yes. I mean, even when an agent is someone, when you're looking for someone that's willing to work with you as far as like editing and things go, it should still be a fully written, you should have the whole thing written.
Multiple revisions.
I've
revised it.
Polished, revised story. Yes. Don't do your 50,000 words for NaNoWriMo and then send it to them.
Yeah, and there are so many people who query right after Nano for their Nano story, like people that don't follow the rules. Don't be one of those people.
Follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
But yeah.
My thing is, did you see Susan Dennard? Since I think you know more about her stuff, but I remember she had like made categories when she was querying and saying like she queried like X number of people from each category. You have to go look that up.
I don't remember that part of it, but okay. I haven't been, to be completely honest, I have not been querying recently. So I haven't really, like, when there's been querying information out there, I've kind of just been like, I'll come back to this when I'm ready for it, because I don't want to like spend the time learning all of it and then not need it for 5 years.
Yes, that's what I didn't want to get ahead of myself. So I'm with you. So I feel like I'm having to learn all of this.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Once we decided that that's what we were going to talk about, I've been doing some research, but I haven't like been retaining knowledge for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I had to double check all of my notes and all of my information everywhere and all of that fun stuff. We are very quiet.
Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions about querying or want to talk about how their story's going for them? If anyone's written anything in the past week, if anyone's still feeling a NaNoWriMo hangover, I want to know, because I've been rereading through my story as I'm trying to query it and just making sure that the 2 scenes I changed are still working in the novel, and so far, so good. I'm like 80% of the way done now, and I still like my story, so good things for me. Jessica, how's your writing outlook been recently?
Well, we're on the 12th of the month, and I have written 1 day this month.
Was it a good day of writing?
It was a good day. I mean, I got like 1,000 words, which is good for me on a day when I'm doing other things, but
yeah,
as you are well aware, it's been a weird month. So
yeah,
it's been kind of stressful. So I'm definitely not. Full disclosure, I was like being attacked by a cat earlier, and I was like, I realized that like your litter box needs cleaned and you probably haven't been fed for 3 days, but you'll be fine. Like the dog food bowl's full. Go eat some dog food. Like, get away. I don't have time to deal with them. I have a dog with a broken hip. I can't handle like.
I was going to say, we should say for the people who haven't been following along.
I'm not neglecting my cats because I'm evil. I'm neglecting my cats because my dog has a broken hip and I've been taking care of him. So they have food. It's just not the kind they like. They want their own food. 95,000 words into a sequel to one of my books, and it's only a little over halfway done. Yeah, you're going to have to cut a lot of that. A lot. Typically, and it depends on what type of story it is, but typically, like, you're going to want somewhere in, like, the 75 to 115,000 words. You may be doing better because it's a sequel. Most debut novels, they want under 100,000 words.
Yeah, well, and depending on what your story is, that'll make sense too. Plus, I think that's one of the few things that kind of triggers it for agents immediately to think maybe you haven't revised as much as you should have. If your novel's still way beyond the amount of word count that's usual for your genre.
Yeah, they I have heard agents say that, like, if it's like certain type of story, if it's above a certain number of words, they just automatically reject it. So that's always something to think about too, because they know that it's not ready. Like, they won't even read. They don't even care. They're like, oh, you wrote a YA novel and it's 170,000 words. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I see Abigail says, I've just started a new project while my current book is in the query trenches. Abigail, congratulations.
Yay,
also,
for you.
Let us know how the query trenches are treating you, and like, how did you come about which agents you wanted to query? Because that's always been my question for everyone. Just like, how did you decide?
Yeah, how did you make that decision? Curious about querying when it comes to series or vaguely connected books. Typically, what they recommend you do is that, that you state that when you're stating, like, you know, this book is a contemporary, it's 70,000 words, they recommend that you say that it has series potential. They always want you, almost always want you to, like, wrap up your first book with some kind of a defined ending. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times it doesn't ever make it to a second book. So they want the first book to have some kind of a conclusion.
Yeah. Well, so I think my exact words that I use, which are grabbed from someone else, is it stands alone with the potential for a series, is what I said. And if you just wanted one other book, you could say for a sequel. And I put that right on the end where I said, The Meridian Maps is a young adult fantasy novel complete at 78,000 words. It stands alone, kind of thing. So.
And it can be more complicated because, like, I know that, like, for mine that I was querying, it's really hard to write that it stands alone with series potential because there's, like, 4 main villains and they only defeat 1 villain per book.
Yeah.
So, like, is it really a standalone?
Does it stand alone? Yeah.
No, but, you know, they killed one bad guy. That's right.
See, and I have that same kind of thing. The Meridian Maps, they're pirates and they're kind of going after these maps. They have several of them at the end of the book, but they don't have all of them. So while I think it tells a complete story, like arc-wise for the characters, it definitely has that, like, oh no, stuff's still supposed to happen. So I think you can get away with that, though. I think it is much more to do with, like, did I feel like I was told a full story?
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is that it has, like, a full arc, a full character arc and a full story arc. And also, and kind of the decision that I came to and why I stopped querying, along with the fact that it needed revisions, but I kind of decided that maybe for a debut novel, I should go to something that I know is going to be a standalone for sure. Because I do have a couple that I know, like, are for sure 100% are going to be standalone novels because there's nothing else from that world that can or needs to happen. So that kind of maybe the direction to go to if you're someone like us who has 87 books in the back of their brain.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been
struggling then.
to decide. Yeah, well, I've been struggling to decide because I think this one is one that I would love to have be a debut, but the one that I revised for NaNoWriMo that's a YA contemporary stands alone completely. Like the story is done at the end of it, and you know, I feel like that's one that I would query towards the end of this year if this one isn't picked up and if I don't have an agent then. So the question is, should I just wait until then? But I've decided that I think I'll go with the pirate one, but that's a hard thing to decide.
Well, and my thing is too, they say like once you've queried someone, do not query them again, even if it's been like a year or two, if you have the same story. So getting information and knowledge about the querying thing, because I mean, the only way you're really going to learn, I mean, we can sit here for hours and tell you everything we've compiled about the querying world, but the only way you're really going to learn is to do it. You're going to learn from your own personal experiences. I mean, there are things that you need to know going in. And most of the time, any kind of these author chats that talk about querying, you will get that information, things that you absolutely need to know going in. And once you have spent some time there and say like, you know, you do the meridian maps and you don't get any bites on it, but later at the end of the year, you do get bites on the contemporary. You can always go back through meridian maps, do some revisions if you think that maybe that's why, or completely revise your query and maybe your query letter is the problem.
Well,
and then resubmit.
Well, or if I got a bite on the YA contemporary one later, that's something I could then ask the agent during the call and be like, hey, I also have this YA pirate fantasy series, and can we chat about what the options are for that, or is that a thing, or whatever, you know? So
I mean, the absolute worst thing that can happen is they say no. And if they say no, just move on and maybe somebody else will say yes.
Yeah.
It's like dating. It's terrifying and nobody wants to do it, but you just have to.
But it's worth it.
Yes or no answer. Somehow this just became a love and dating talk.
Yeah. Let us know about your worst dates.
Right. Oh.
Let's see. Abigail says, I've gotten a lot of rejection, but have gotten a request for a full. That is awesome. So then you know that your query is working. That's always the good thing. If you're getting like partial or full requests, you know at least your query is working. So that's like step one, I feel like. I've been going through the manuscript wish list to find agents that are looking for a book like mine. Yes.
Yeah. We're both reading. So quiet. I understand what you're saying, Vanessa, about how it's like a whole series with a bunch of spinoffs and everything is like connected together. And
your dog is whining a bunch.
Okay. I'll be there in a minute. The dog is demanding that he goes outside now.
No.
He'll wait a minute. It's fine. Yeah, anyway. I don't know where I was at. I got lost. An agent in a different genre. Holy cannoli. So you're saying that like you're gonna write one book and then the sequel to that book would be a different genre? That would be very interesting to see.
It would. Margot asks, so do most people have multiple agents throughout their career, especially if they write in different genres? I don't know. I wish I could see like a poll on that. If you write in completely different genres, like especially if you're doing like middle grade and then like erotica or something, you probably have different agents.
Yeah.
Because they just won't have the connections within the publishing industry to like make both of those happen.
Yes.
But if you're asking if you stick with the one agent throughout, it depends, especially because the other thing that you need to be careful with on agents is if they're a new agent, it's it sounds like agents can kind of wash out with some amount of frequency. So I've heard that happen to people. I've heard people wanting to pivot in their careers and their agent, of like, if they don't represent that new thing, not sticking with them. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't, but for the most part, I feel like usually they're with you for a while.
Yeah. And Margot, I don't know if you've been here the whole time, but we did talk about that earlier as well. So when it's up for a watch back, you can always look back and see what we talked about with that, because we did talk about that for quite a while earlier.
Yeah. I may try and timestamp it later if you want to return to something, if I can group our discussion points.
We have discussion points?
Yeah, I know. We're not all over the place.
We're
all
not
over
crazy? Okay, does anybody have anything else for me before I run away so I can go take care of my injured puppy?
I think we'll probably end it when she runs away too. So last minute questions, last minute, if you want us to root for you, if you're querying soon, or if you're close to the end of your story, let us know that too.
Do you have any questions you would like us to address in future chats?
Yeah, or if you want to leave a comment, we can
leave a comment down below. If you're watching this in the future, please feel free to leave a comment down below.
Yeah, because the chat disappears.
You can watch it in the thing. It's just hard to watch it because you have to watch through the whole thing to get everything.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Apocalyptic Potato. I hope he gets better too. He's just having a tough life right now. Poor little feller. He'll be okay though.
Little Flash.
Little Flash Gordon. It's all beat up.
So cute though.
Trying to be a superhero and he got ran over by a car.
Yeah. But she does have some pictures on her Twitter. So if you want to check her out, I did put Jessica's channel. Oh no, okay. I put your YouTube, your Twitter, and your Instagram. So so good. Past me did a good job.
Past you did a great job.
Thank you, Abigail. And I definitely want to hear more about how things are going for you. So please keep us updated. That is so exciting.
Okay. I'm going to head out because I can hear my mother in there moving around.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching.
Thanks,
Say bye to Jessica and I'll leave too. Bye, everyone. Bye.